Let's see. Guys, who are you? I mean, this is a new step in the journey. This is a YAA plus. Scratch that. This is something new. This is a new adventure today.
This is not the Frasier rewatch.
This isn't a Frasier rewatch.
We could still call this podcast the Frasier rewatch, though, just as like a meta thing.
Yeah. If you know, you know. But
there's a restaurant in New Zealand, and their name is like Bob's Office Supplies or something like that, and all their menu items are named like 60 pack of map paper, so that way people can write their dinner off as like work expenses.
So
if it's like an itemized receipt.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah. So we can make a movie about that.
Well, Christian just had the ideal lead-in right there. This is a movie podcast. We're all one friends. We're all, I think
we're all one person.
Yeah, we're all
one entity.
This is all one person. But not today. Yeah, we actually don't know the title of this podcast yet, so I'm not gonna start with welcome to blah blah blah. But we will figure that out, just like we will figure out a plot of a movie that we are working on together. So for everyone who hasn't been here before, that's all right.
And technically, none of us have, honestly.
Truly, we all enjoy riffing together, and we were talking about it okay, what if we just had a podcast where all we did was take a premise of a movie, its genre, maybe a key detail, an actor or two that we want to use, and just come up with a movie. We've never done this before, and we never done this recorded, so there might be some rough patches, some kinks to work out, but we're gonna try to have fun with it, try to make each other laugh, and try to give you the fans a good product. And so this is Untitled Movie Podcast. So the way this is gonna work, we have excuse me. I think I had coronavirus last week, but not this week, thank God. The way this is gonna work is we have probably 35 different movie premises or something like that. So, and counting. Yeah, they're adding up. And so we're just going to go through a random number generator. And actually, I'm going to ask you guys, should we do this Madden style where it's we do three numbers and then we got to pick one of those three. And if we don't like one of those three, we got to do a fourth. Well, we have to do the fourth or just the first one that we land on.
I think that works. We get three choices, and if we don't like any of those, we have to pick the fourth one if we want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madden style. All right. Give me what's it called? Give me what's it called? A lottery sound, like ticka 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 something. Ooh, yeah. Okay. Like Deal or No Deal. Stacy, open the case.
I don't even know the
number
bad
15. Our 15 premise.
That is the finding notes left for a romantic partner.
Ooh, okay. I like that. Not bad. Everyone needs love, right? Okay, so 15. Finding notes. Finding notes. That's already the title of the movie.
It's not Finding Nemo.
Yeah. You guys like Finding Nemo? Well, more of a Finding Notes guy myself, but okay, 15, and we have 28. Let's see, what's 28?
28 is Christmas ornaments come to life. Personally, I like that idea. I don't know who came up with that.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
It's topical. It's almost Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
Aren't there 5 movies about that already? We'll figure it out. Not the one that
Christian,
we made,
don't tank our own podcast.
Nothing is original. Everything is just stolen from something
Tank for
else.
2 has already happened, man.
Mm-hmm.
I was Tank for Caleb.
All right. Last one. 27. That's kind of anticlimactic, but all right.
A guy sets out to become super jacked.
Okay. So how do we feel about those three premises? Do we pick one and run with it, or do we do a fourth and just let it ride?
For our first episode, we should go the challenge. Do a fourth one, and just whatever happens.
No deal, Howie.
No deal.
All right, I'm pressing fourth. I'm scared. Wow, okay, land on 15 again. That's annoying.
No, do it again. That doesn't count.
Okay, 6. What's 6?
6. The most unimportant day of the year.
Ooh, okay.
We have to do it.
I'm okay. So, most unimportant day of the year. That's our premise. And then let's
What's the genre going to be?
Genre, we got 17.
Are we doing the 3 choices for all of these?
What?
Oh,
No,
we can, or we can just do. What do you guys think?
What do you mean by 3 choices?
Well, like we did 3 spins for the
okay,
premise,
yeah, sure.
right?
Cool.
Are we doing that for every single like category?
Unless we like the first one. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Unless
Yeah.
we like. Yeah. Okay.
No, actually, I think for the genre, it
spinning.
should just be 1 spin.
Okay. 13. What's the 13th genre?
13 is a Western.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
Honestly,
I
I
think
think
there's
the most
something there.
unimportant day of the year sounds like a Clint Eastwood film.
It's
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. We
And
gotta
then
get
for
the
Hook,
cattle.
do 1 too. Actually, Hook do 3 because we might not like some of the ones we get.
That's true. Okay. Hook. How many hooks we got? What? Like
19.
So far.
Okay. Okay. 15.
Very devout
very-
religious belief.
Yeah,
Okay. I think that's
I can see that. Yeah, that seems like kind of Westernish, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
Westernish. I'm getting a feel for it. Do we want to wait?
15, and then 18 is our second one.
Part of a minority or oppressed group in the universe. That could also
Okay.
work, maybe.
And then 8.
Wants to know
Wants
what
to know
cartoon
what-
character they.
All I want to know my whole life is
Them talking
what kind of
pictures
cartoon-
are all the rage nowadays.
That's it. That's it right there. That's that's the hook right there. Okay. How do we feel about any of those? I kind of like 8. I like the challenge of 8, to be honest. But
I'd veto that.
I don't know if I like that much challenge.
we can roll the dice.
I think 15 and 18 are both topical for the genre.
I think they both would work. I'm just, which one do we want personally is between the two. I think I'm leaning towards 15.
Personally,
Honestly.
I am as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do 15.
All right, 2 out of 3
very
wins. So.
devout. Yeah, what's that one? Very devout religious belief. Okay.
Okay. So our
And
movie.
then for actors,
Oh,
we got 59 actors. I'm so proud of us. Okay, we'll pick.
we should pick
yeah.
2.
Yeah, we'll
Two
do
actors
2
to
actors.
be in it.
Do we have to use 2? Okay.
I think we should use 2.
Okay, 10 is our first actor.
Ken Jeong. That would have been good with the minority one.
Yeah, dang it. Should trust our gut. Oh, goodness. Okay, Ken Jeong is an option.
Sounds like a Western comedy is in the works. So let's see who the second one is.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do what? We'll do 4 spins for the actors since we have so
We'll
many.
pick 2 of the 4.
And we'll pick 2 of them.
Okay, so I won't mark Ken yet.
Okay. Number 5.
Danny Trejo.
Ooh.
Perfect.
That fits. He's a lock.
Again, fits the minority one. But we're not doing that, so.
Oh, actually, one sec. And 38 is the number
38 is Ving Rhames.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
He's the black dude from Mission Impossible.
He's just big black guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's also in Pulp Fiction, right?
Yeah, he's Marcel Wallace, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then 51.
51, Area 51. Ian McShane.
Ian
was one of
McShane, was
mine.
that again?
That's
John Wick.
Palpatine.
No, you're thinking.
oh
Ian
no,
McDermott.
you're right. American Gods.
He's in John Wick. He's like the owner of the hotel, I think, or not the owner, maybe. But
Yeah, he's the old dude. He's like
Yeah.
that, like because he's okay. Ian Mc-
yeah, and American Gods too. He's in that.
Plug my charger real quick.
He's in Pirates of the Caribbean as well.
He's Blackbeard.
He's it. Yeah,
He's in American Horror Story as the Killer Santa. That's how I know.
I didn't know that one.
Okay.
Those are our 4 spins.
Let's see. Yeah, what actors we feeling? Probably. I feel
think
like Ian McShane. I can definitely see him in this.
and
Yeah.
Danny Trejo. Those are my 2.
Because it's
Ian
the most
McShane and Danny?
unimportant day of the year, right?
Most unimportant
Mhm.
day.
Yeah, I'm leaning Danny.
Yeah, okay, Ian
Ving
McShane and-
kind of gets me. I feel like he'd be good as like an action guy, but I don't know if he really fits this. Maybe unless we go with like an action movie. I'm going to say Danny
And
Trejo.
I think honestly, there are obviously going to be more actors in this,
We can always throw Ving still in there too.
right?
Yeah.
We don't have to just use 2, so we have to use Danny though. I'm good with that one if you guys are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Good
so
stuff.
I've already got an idea, guys. I want to
Ooh, pitch it.
pitch it. Okay. So there's a movie. The movie's called The Most Unimportant Day of the Year, where it's going to be, released in 2026 with a multi-million-dollar budget, but it's kind of an homage, kind of a, a throwback to the, the spaghetti westerns of the 60s and 70s. So there's a robber baron, late 19th, early 20th century kind of, Midwest, Western. So the robber baron's played by Ian McShane, right? And he wants to go and his company finds oil on this property, and so there's the main character has a family out there, and his family is very religious. They're very devout Christians, and so they plan this big Christmas festival, big Christmas celebration. But on Christmas Day, Ian McShane sends some mercenaries out to kill the main character's family, try to chase the family off the property. Maybe they don't even intend to kill them. They just intend to kind of drive them off. And since it's Christmas, that's they're going to expect it the least. They're going to have the least amount of resistance of moving off. And so in the tussle, the main character's wife and kids get shot, or they get run over. Maybe the house burns down, and the main character gets left for dead. And so he goes from having this, very devout religious belief that Christmas is a very important holiday, it's the birth of a savior. Everything that he cared about has died there. So now he's like, Christmas is the most unimportant day of the year. Like, I could care less about what happens today. All I care about is revenge, and so he is found by a wandering, cowboy, gunslinger played by Danny Trejo. And they kind of bond over the fact that, they've lost their families, and Danny Trejo still is festive. He still sees the birth of Christ as an important thing. And so they spend the movie trying to hunt down Ian McShane, and they strike it to the oil company, and they burn oil derricks. And then at the end of the movie, on the next Christmas, the main character tries, they take on Ian McShane's mercenary army, and the Ian McShane maybe says, "Oh, it's come on now, it's Christmas," and the main character says, "Really? Because to me, it's the most unimportant day of the year." And then he shoots him, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he spares him as like a Christmas gift. I don't know. That's just what comes to mind immediately.
Ooh.
I'm watching this. Where can I sign up?
Yeah.
Okay, so the most unimportant day of the year, just so I am sure I understand, he's saying it's the most unimportant day because he doesn't have the joy now because his family's gone, right? It's like he's not celebrating Christmas now. It's just about getting revenge.
Right. And I think maybe you could even play an important element in the theme of the movie is that he's kind of being a hypocrite, because to him it is really an important day because he lost his family, but maybe he's so stricken by grief, and for so long he's like, well, this is a holy day, Christ is a savior, he's all about rebirth, and so but everything I cared about died today. So he's like actively not leaning into how important the day is, but then at the same time he also wants to get revenge. And so it's sort of like the anti-Christmas sort of thing, because Christmas is about coming together. And so then people will debate for years around whether the most unimportant day of the year is a Christmas film or not. Maybe at the end, you can tie the theme back into maybe he doesn't kill Ian McShane. You could do like, remember Netflix had that series last year where it was like you could watch the episodes in any different order. Maybe we could have two endings to the film, one where he kills Ian McShane, but maybe the other one is him saying like, okay, no, like, how can I tarnish this holy day, even if I don't feel like it's special? Like, I can't be happy on this day. I can't subvert, the tradition of like new life and rebirth and all that by killing somebody. Like, oh, it's not going to bring my family back. It's not going to undo what happened. And so, I don't know. I feel like
what are you gonna do, boy? Kill me? Ain't gonna bring your family back? Nah, I think part of me and part of this is because like my love of HBO shows. I want Ian McShane to die at the end and like just get blasted in the head. But ultimately, it's like I see what you're saying about like, okay, like there is that parallel of if he doesn't kill him, it's like it's kind of this full circle like redemption arc deal within that. But it's good. I like either way. I can't. So what do you think, Ethan? Do you think Ian McShane dies or? Well,
I think so. If this is a Western, it's like the Western version of Die Hard. It sounds like a little bit. Is it a Christmas movie or not? If it's a Christmas movie, quote unquote, then I think there needs to be a little bit of redemption at the end. However, since the movie is literally called the most unimportant day of the year, and it's kind of a revenge movie, I think there needs to be killing at the end.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, to kind of compromise, what if the main character has mercy? He's like, oh, this isn't going to bring my family back. And then he like starts to walk away, but then Danny Trejo's character just comes up and blasts the guy anyway.
Yeah.
Ooh,
because
yeah.
he's kind of a like outlaw martial guy or outlaw cowboy guy, right? So
I mean, we can make it that. I feel like we should we should. Ian McShane has to have a really like 19th century robber baron sounding name, like I don't know, Oliver Nathanielson or
no,
something.
it has to be like P. Oliver or something. Like it has to have the first one be like an initial. I like
P.
this
Oliver
so far.
Aberforth.
So he's like an oil baron. So
Yeah.
So he's not really sending assassins, maybe, right? So I'm thinking like he's just sending guys to like push them off the land, maybe.
I think like mercenaries. You know, I'm thinking like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Magnificent Seven, like rich guys in the Wild West that can hire Pinkertons or little.
So are they coming to kill the main character, or are they just kind of coming to like be brute force, push them off, and then something happens where they end up accidentally killing the family?
I think that. I don't know. I feel like Ian McShane would play a character that doesn't care about human life. I think it would be maybe more of an interesting detail where the brutes actually do feel kind of bad about it. Like because just think in any like low budget, what's the name? Steven Seagal style action movie, like the bad guys only exist to get killed, And I think if we're making the movie, I think we want to have some more layers to it. So I think maybe we even have like a minor antagonist who's one of the the brutes, the mercenaries, and so he's kind of overseeing the little operation, and really all they're doing is like, here's a deed signed by the judge of Wentworth County saying that we now own the land or something like that, and then that's whenever foul play happens and the family dies. But then as the movie goes on, this minor antagonist is kind of like conflicted about like, man, like I never thought I'd end up killing kids or something like that, but he maybe feels really loyal to Ian McShane's character, and maybe there is kind of how like in movies, like there's the Battle of Helm's Deep, and then there's the Battle of like Pelennor Field. Just like there's the lead up to the battle, and then there's the battle itself. Like that could be a shootout scene where the main character and Danny Trejo go and confront this guy as like, oh, he's the first stop on our redemption train or revenge train, and maybe then he either feels guilty about it, or maybe he feels guilty but he doesn't want to backstab his boss, and so that's whenever they have the shootout. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
So you're thinking this guy is kind of like a not an anti-hero, but kind of a protagonist, but kind of a conflicted protagonist.
I'd say more of like a
henchman type.
What's the word for apprehensive antagonist? Like he is, and like maybe he's too far down the rabbit hole to be redeemed, but at least he's not going to be like the archetypal, evil just to be evil henchman, because I feel like in movies too, like the minor bosses, the early bosses don't really have a lot of purpose other than to get the character to the next thing, or like to the final boss, And then if it goes well, we can have a prequel with him in it about his origin story.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay.
So like, hey, we need to figure out this religious belief, because I feel like we kind of just threw that in. The main character is religious. That could be why he spares Ian McShane's life at the end, I guess. He's a good Christian man who wouldn't kill somebody, but the Danny Trejo maybe comes and kills him anyway or something. I don't know.
I think that's how it should be done. Like, because it could be like the Spider-Man 1 thing where it's like,
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Exactly. Yeah. Tobey Maguire's gonna leave, but then he kind of like, Danny Trejo is the glider that stabs Ian McShane in the stomach. So that's good.
Oh, so is Danny Trejo the henchman that's kind of apprehensive?
No, I think Danny
antagonist?
Trejo is like a third party. I think he just kind of comes along as a wandering vagabond. Let's say that the apprehensive guy is played by, I don't know, Michael Pendergast, or no, what's his name?
Michael Fassbender?
Michael Fassbender. Michael Pendergast. I was like talking about robber barons. Michael Fassbender or something. Yes, he was in Jonah Hex. That's probably I'm thinking of him, but I don't know. Just have a minor antagonist. Maybe it's Ian McShane's like nephew who did something whenever he was a kid, and he kind of like was a disgrace to the family. So all he could really muster within the family business was to be like, he has this really important title of like, the head of like, business relations is like the name within the company, but what he does is like oversees like the shady business, and that's, it's kind of like a taboo role to play in the family business, but that's all he can do. And so he doesn't quite agree with what his uncle is doing, but he wants to make his uncle proud. So then, we could stick with the whole like he's an apprehensive antagonist, or we could go with the trope of like he's the nepo baby where he's not really worth anything, but he wanted to have something within the family business. What do you guys think sounds more interesting there? Do you think you should do that he is apprehensive, or maybe he's more of like a sniveling, like, oh, please don't kill me, sir, I'll tell you where my uncle is? Like, what do you think sounds more interesting?
I like apprehensive because I feel like it gives a bit of a rub where it's like maybe Ian McShane's like your attitude doesn't make me want to trust you, but like you are my blood, so it's like, I'm gonna keep you around. And I'm even thinking about there could be like a little scene where like, what's it called, his nephew and his wife and like his nephew's wife being like, you ain't no tax collector, you're just a thug. Like, woman, get out of here. Like, get out of my business.
Maybe since they are family, maybe Ian McShane like holds that over him for a long time.
Exactly.
Let's just say this guy's name is Matthias. Like the character's name is Matthias. So that way we can, like, Matthias is his nephew, and Ian McShane's like, your father never, he pissed away his opportunity, and so now you should just be like. Or maybe,
so what if the Ian McShane kind of raised the nephew? Like maybe the dad died young, and so he kind of has this like this
but he
fatherly.
resented the dad, so he just kind of feels like compelled because they're family. He has to do something, but he doesn't obviously give him like a right hand position because he's like, oh yeah. I think that could be interesting.
That's it right there.
I like it. I think I like the apprehensive nephew, I guess henchman, kind of enforcer, brute guy. Maybe not brute, but
Yeah, I mean, the term mercenary, like outlaw, mercenary, kind of gun for hire sort of thing. So I think you can kind of
a guns for hands sort of thing, but
you could probably leave the location pretty ambiguous. And honestly, I'm all for parallel universes where like maybe you like, oh, the state of new custody or something like that. What's like a new.
It could be like. It could be like New Virginia or something like that, because they always like name this stuff after,
right. And so that can kind of give you some like play with like geography and like, oh well, there's oil, but then like right across the street there's like a bunch of mountains. Like I don't know like how like I don't want it to be like in Oklahoma and like, oh, we're gonna go over to Kansas City in 2 hours. Like it's not really how that works, but.
I mean, I think if it was going to be a real life place, Wyoming, I think, has oil and it's got mountains too. So I mean, that could kind of be like at least what I'm thinking,
right?
In terms of like a setting type.
And I think another reason why I'm apprehensive to do like a real place is I feel like so many movies do take place in like Wyoming or Tombstone or like so it gives some play, right? And I think it would even give you a chance to kind of like build the world a little bit of like, oh yeah, and the state next over, there's a city called like. I don't know, Pine Grove, and it could be like the equivalent of Denver, and like, this is where the law stops. And then the farther out you get, there are, a lot of deeds and there are a lot of like promises that you get for, owning land, but it's kind of shady and shifty. And that's how Ian McShane is able to kind of gobble up all these little oil reserves. That's how he's able to get hold of them. I think that could be an interesting setting.
I like that.
That's good. That's the most unimportant day of the year the most unimportant day of the year, 2026, spring 2026.
And what you said something, Christian, about whenever he like, oh, it's Christmas, not for me, it's just the most unimportant day of the year, or something like that. That's the tagline,
Yeah. He picks it. He gets a little like what's it called? His like little tobacco stick or something like that. Like, most important day of the year.
Important day of the year. I think what we could do with his character. Should we think of a name for him?
I think we need a name, and I think I'd like to suggest an actor, but let's get a name first.
Okay. And it can't be like a Colt McCool. It can't be like it's got to be a real like.
I'm thinking like Tobias or something. Is that a Western name? That's more of like a British name. I feel like. I think Wesley.
I was thinking it's like Micah or something that's kind of like biblical.
Oh,
I
biblical.
Like there are a lot of like I don't know. Never mind, because my Red Dead 2 has Micah Bell.
Like Gideon.
Yeah, I think Gideon's a good name.
Gideon,
yeah. So
he could have like a. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish.
I think he could have kind of like a Welsh or like Western European last name to show that his family are like immigrants. Like, have you ever noticed how it seems like in the 20s there's like, Buck Gilpie, like all these names, and like you don't hear anybody with those names anymore. I feel like you could have something kind of like that.
Yeah.
Gideon Bale.
So this guy is fairly young, right? Because he's got a wife and kids at the beginning, at least at the beginning of the money or of the movie.
Sure. Yeah, I think he's pretty young.
The first person that came to mind for me was James Marsden.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Cyclops in X-Men.
Okay.
He's the voice of Sonic, I think. Or no, he's the voice of Sonic. He's in Sonic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 50 years old though. But I think.
Oh, is he really?
He is.
Oh.
But hey, you know what? Even better, because he can play somebody younger.
So the alternate, if we don't like James Marsden, the other person I was thinking was Adam Driver for some reason. I feel like he kind of would be good in a Western.
I think he would be.
This would be like a kind of role that he would get, though. Like,
yeah,
just because he's a hot actor right now, he'd get any role he wants.
Okay, yeah. So posit then. Could either of those characters be the apprehensive antagonist that we talked about? Could Adam Driver be?
Adam Driver would probably be more likely. Yeah.
Right.
He could be the hero or the villain.
Yeah, honestly.
Ooh, what about Pedro Pascal for the main character? Is he too old?
I know what I gotta do, but I don't know if I got the strength to do it.
I think Pedro Pascal could be the apprehensive antagonist, and Adam Driver could be the protagonist. I think that Pedro Pascal would be. It would be easy to sympathize with him. I think that like you see him in the in the first act of the movie, and he's doing all these bad things, and so you're like, oh well. It kind of feels good to root for the bad guy, because Pedro Pascal is so lovable. But then as the movie goes on and he does struggle with these things, then you kind of feel conflicted of like, oh, wait, I shouldn't just cheer for him because he's Pedro Pascal. Like he has done these bad things. What do you think?
I would also say with that's actually a good point, because I also think we have to take into account that people hate Kylo Ren, and he was kind of a similar character a little bit. So maybe we should have Adam Driver be the good guy so people want to root for him, kind of flip the, got to think with the viewer a little bit here.
Okay. Yeah, Adam Driver plays Gideon.
Yes. And then for the wife, can I suggest Emily Kinney, who played Beth in The Walking Dead?
Okay.
I think that could work. I don't know how old is she now?
That's a good question. I don't know. She's just the first person I pictured. She is 39 right now. Okay. So,
but does she still? I don't know. I think
she still looks pretty young. I think.
Yeah,
that's a good
pick.
Could
be. You could even play into that of like, oh, Gideon like was the oldest son, and then his wife. Molly, I don't know, Sarah, his Gideon and Sarah play into Gideon and Sarah.
Because I think she has like an old prairie wife kind of look. I think a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like she's kind of put upon. Like she got married really, really young. And they have how many kids? 3, 4 kids.
I was gonna say 2, but maybe they should have 3. That's kind of the perfect number.
Yeah, maybe like 2. Like one baby,
3.
One toddler.
I think that 2 is to suburban America. I think 3 or 4 is more accurate to the time.
That's a good point.
Because usually I was about to say like 4, but then I think like in terms of like you can pull off 2 if they're like babies. You know what I mean? That's why I'm saying like 2 very
like maybe they just got married. Like they're newlyweds.
They're gonna have some more. You know it, but like as of right now they got 2.
Okay. The only reason I say more than 2 is because I think that an interesting part of his character, we talk about he has this religious belief. I think in the first act of the movie, we should see that he struggles with forgiveness. I mean, that's not really a new story beat to hit, but like that could be part of his character of like he just has this really strict sense of like injustice and like he or like not strict, but like really easily agitated where he feels like, oh, his son didn't herd the cows or something, and so now he's like really upset that like he didn't obey him, and Sarah has to be the one that kind of like coax him down. It's like, no, you have to forgive your son, like you have to treat him, you have to honor him, or like maybe the neighbor said something, and so he just has this temper and he doesn't like forgiving. But that also juxtaposes with him being a good Christian. So again, there's that like that hypocritical piece of like,
okay,
I like that, because then you don't know, like, is he going to kill him at the end, or is he going to, like, which side of his character is going to come out at the end, the vengeant one or the Christian,
the one that he has to learn that he can't rely on his wife, and he can't just like say, he can't have the safeguard of like, okay, well, I have to be a good father and a good husband, so therefore I will be a good Christian, because maybe in his mind that's what he sees. Like maybe he's like, okay, the Christmas season, especially, like I'm the provider. I bring home the food and I got to raise my kids to be God-fearing people. But without those safeguards, he doesn't really know who he is, because that's kind of what he's always assumed is keeping him pious and religious,
Sounds good to me.
Like his family's holding it up, like you said.
Yeah, he thinks that he's a good Christian, but then he realizes that like all he's really doing is like playing the part of like the biblical father and the biblical husband. Like he doesn't really have like that self-control or that that restraint. And so I think that's why I ask it to have more than 2 kids, because I want one to be at least old enough to kind of like be able to agitate him a little bit. Like maybe an oldest son and then 2 twins maybe who are like toddlers, like a boy and a girl.
I'm thinking he has like a 10 or 11-year-old son maybe, or 12, like old enough to start like doing chores, kind of, like helping.
Okay.
But that would also put him a little bit older. So
he's 30.
I don't know if Adam. Yeah, I guess he could be. They got married young in the
They got married
West,
young,
right?
had kids young.
Yeah.
Jonathan, what do you think? Or do we not worry about that whole side?
No, I like that kind of foreshadowing, like, thematically. And like I think like you said, like maybe he's like his 10, 11-year-old son messes something up and he's like a little too harsh about it. It's like, bro, he's a kid. But in his mind it's totally justified. And like,
and that could be one of the
like,
last things that he says to him, or like one of the last conversations they have before the son dies.
Yeah, that's good.
I think one thing that would have to be kind of, I mean, you could flesh this out a little more if you were actually writing the script, is you want to make sure that the main character is still, like, you can still root for him. You still want to show that he's still a good dad, even if he has that temper issue or that like unforgiving.
So maybe
quality.
Maybe even as, I don't know, we can say yes or no to this. I'm okay either way. What if the beginning of the movie actually is you see a young Gideon, and like you see that how harsh, maybe his dad's a pastor, I don't know, but like you see that that's been instilled in him, and all he really has, or maybe he didn't have a dad growing up. Maybe all he had to go off of was like viewing these fatherly figures, but they were all really, really harsh because they were trying to teach him something. And so that's all he knows how to do. And so like, again, kind of like he's learning through observation of how am I supposed to be a good Christian? Like I'm doing all these things that must make me a good believer. I don't know. As I say that, I don't know how I feel about that actually. What do you think? But you're right.
I mean, I think it works out. Like I imagine a scene where like, like a sheep got left out in the rain or something like that, and it was it was young Joshua's fault. And you got it. Go for it.
Okay. No, I like that. I like that the sheep gets left out because, like, think of how biblically paralleled that is. So at first he's really upset because they have 100 sheep and 99 of them are there. And so Gideon's mad that Jonathan lost the sheep. And so he's like, I can't believe you made me go after one sheep. I can't believe you made me do that. And so then after his family dies and kind of towards the climax of the movie, maybe, I don't know, maybe there's like a young family being harassed by Ian McShane's, I don't know. But basically the sheep comes back, or a sheep comes back and he's like, oh my gosh, I have to be the good shepherd. I have to like let my pride aside and go after the one sheep. Like maybe that's what he does is he says like, look, I have 100 sheep here. Look how successful I am. Nobody ever thought I was going to do this. And I'm prideful here. I've got my little homestead. I've got my family. I've got my kids. And so I'm winning at life. I'm a good Christian. I've got a farm. I'm doing all these things and I get to celebrate Christmas. Like think about that. And it could even parallel into like the present day of like, we kind of assume that we are successful and we're secure because we can point to these things. And Christmas is a good example of that. Like if you have a successful Christmas, that must mean that you're successful. Right. And so he's living the lie, or, he's living this lie of like, I have all these things, but whenever something disrupts that, so maybe Jonathan loses a sheep, he's like, oh my gosh, I can't control a lot of these things. And, I'm not actually as secure in my manhood or my faith or whatever. And so after he loses all of that, he's like, man, I'm not living at life. I'm not a good Christian. Then he has to go get that sheep. And that's like the first time he's actually being faithful. That's actually the first time he's being a good follower of Christ.
Oh, because like in a way, it's like finally costing him something. Like
yes, exactly. Because at first it was just a status symbol of like, well, I can't believe my son who's supposed to be useful lost a sheep, and now as a laborer, as this like, oh my gosh, one of my sheep, I have to go get it. But now he appreciates it because it's not having the sheep that is important to him. It's not being a good husband and a good father that's important to him. It's like literally like, what are the mindsets that I need to have to be like Christ?
And this happens at the beginning of the movie, or like somewhere later.
I think that whenever his family's alive, that's the first time that a sheep gets lost. I think later on towards the climax, there needs to be maybe not a literal sheep, but we're like, here we go. The mercenaries kidnap another farmer's family. One, like a member of the family, could be the youngest son, the youngest daughter, whatever.
Pause real quick. I'll be right back. I heard something.
This is exciting. I wish that this was a real movie.
Honestly, I was a little skeptical that this was going to work out, but I actually like it. Like the premise in general. But like, I think we actually got this down. This is what I'm saying. You are really good at like coming up with the plot, the details and stuff, and then we're helping you flesh it out. And I'm casting stuff. Jonathan's...
My bad. Sam just left, so I was like, what the heck happened? But okay.
Okay, go back to re-ask your question. We'll like cut and then re-ask your question about like, oh, does this happen at the beginning of the movie or what? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Like so the sheep, he loses that sheep and he like brings it back at the beginning, right? Or like the first act.
Because his son loses it whenever his family's still alive. And then I think towards the end of the movie, like maybe like the end of the middle act, like kind of getting close to the revelation that sparks him towards, you know, the final scene is like he and Danny Trejo have to go rescue the kid of one of the other farmers that Ian McShane's trying to steal from. And so maybe there's a scene after a gun battle where Danny Trejo and Adam Driver go to the family's farm, you know, and they kind of get to know the family. And there's this one kid that's like not really successful, not really, you know, together with the family, and they get kidnapped. And so Adam Driver and Danny Trejo have to go rescue this kid. And he's like, oh my gosh, like I finally realized what it's like to like, I have no stake in this because I met this guy, this kid, this family 2 days ago, but like this is really important for some reason, like to get this kid back.
I feel that. I feel like that could be like a close,
like a side quest like almost.
Act 3 starting scene a little bit, like before like the big battle, if you will, where the final conflict happens. I can kind of see that.
Okay. And maybe what if that's the instigation for the final act? Like maybe the mercenaries came and kidnapped this daughter, like this 12-year-old daughter or something. They were going to hold her ransom, and in return they would make the family leave. Right. And Ian McShane, like he wanted to do this under the books. Like it's not nothing is official. It's off the books. But Adam Driver and Danny Trejo going in and getting her back, like that, maybe like a lawman dies or something, like where basically like, oh my gosh, like this got blown out in the open and now Ian McShane is in the spotlight. Now all of this is going, you know, it's hitting the fan. And so that's what prompts the third act, where now it's personal for Ian McShane. Like, his company is actively pursuing Danny Trejo and Adam Driver, like something like that. And so that's what leads to the final confrontation. Or we can undo that. We can hit the undo button. I'm okay.
So are we
with that
picturing
too.
this as kind of an action? I mean, there's kind of, you know, there's gunfighting and shootouts and
I picture this as a gunfight. Also kind of like there was a movie that with Tom Hanks in it, like The Good News or something like that. And then there's also another movie or a series with Ethan Hawke, and it's about John Brown. And so I was picturing it to be kind of like, yeah, like a heartfelt, like it's not a Christian pure flicks movie, but there are a lot of like religious themes in it. And there is
still shooting and guns.
Exactly. It's not a pure flicks film. It's not like here's a Christian movie who's set place. It's like, it's a Western, but I think it's time accurate to have somebody who does worry about their faith a lot, you know.
That's kind of what I figured. Because that's what I was going to say. I was like, I think the 99 Sheep is a little bit too on the nose, maybe, if this isn't a pure flicks film. So yeah, that's fair. We can readdress that too, because I think all this
in my head, it's kind of like the first act is like the first act of Job, where like his life's set in order, stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, then he loses everything, and then the rest of the movie is kind of it's Job plus, you know, healthy
Job plus John Wick.
Helpings of revenge, where it's like, okay, we have this now revenge plot that we're working on, and we're trying to take out this guy. Mm-hmm. And you know, he's always 10 steps ahead of us. He's got more men than us, and we can win
more money,
battles
more
here and there,
more power. But then
we, you know, And almost like you're saying, Christian, like find a way to actually hurt this guy, or find a loophole into like his base camp or whatever, where we can actually, make an offensive move and get to that final conflict, and get to that final moment where Danny Trejo kills him.
Okay, so actually, I'm thinking about that. Maybe he doesn't kill him, because you mentioned like a lawman gets killed or something. So like this is now kind of in the open. What if he has, Adam Driver, Gideon has the chance to kill him, and instead he's like, I'm going to spare your life, and I'm going to take your company, and like he like turns him in like to the the U.S. Marshals or something. Or I guess not U.S. Marshals, because this isn't America, or this is a fake world.
It's an alternate
like,
U.S. Yeah.
Like he, instead of killing him, he just like kind of turns him in and like lets justice do its thing almost. Or is that too goody feel good for the end?
I mean, we could always pull, the opposite, and the main character dies. We could always do that. Like he sacrifices himself for somebody, but I don't know if that necessarily is. I don't know if I feel like that's adequate for this movie. Maybe for one of our other podcast episodes, there can be the main character dies, but
let's keep him alive.
I think.
Ethan,
go ahead.
There should be a line where Danny Trejo and Adam Driver are sitting talking at the end, and like they're drinking whiskey or whatever, and Danny Trejo leans over to him, been like, should have killed him, and like they kind of laugh about it. Like if they turned him into Capitol Marshals or something like that, there could be like a little joke at the end, like should have killed him, and then maybe Adam Driver's like, you ever heard of turn the other cheek or something like that, or maybe quote some sort of Bible text or whatever, or verse or whatever. But I mean that's an option if we kept him alive.
Okay. What if Adam Driver doesn't know that Danny Trejo killed him?
Ooh, okay.
Okay. I like this. I also don't know. I feel like I could talk myself into it out of. Okay. Because I don't know if that's a trope in very many movies where the main character doesn't know what happens to the villain. I think because it could also add a shade of like, okay, well, was his redemption really earned then? Like maybe leave the audience with a sense of like uncertainty of like, yeah, maybe the final battle is like Adam Driver, Danny Trejo, and then like the extended family of the farmer. If we're even having him in the movie, we might not. That could be played by Pedro Pascal if you want. But it's them, and they actually like set fire to one of the oil refineries there. Like, and so there's this big like cinematic set piece. Everything's burning, everything's on fire, and like Adam Driver catches Ian McShane in like the headquarters or whatever, and everything's on fire. And Adam Driver's about to put a bullet in him. He's like, you know what? No, like, I have changed. Look at me. It's an important day of the year. It's Christmas, or whatever. And he like walks away, and like the scene maybe ends. I don't know. Like maybe he has to rush out of there, and they get kind of like separated in the fog. And then like the scene ends, and you see like the oil refinery in ruins afterwards. And then Danny Trejo comes up and just shoots Ian McShane. Like maybe Ian McShane is like shriveled over. He's like hunched over. Like it's a big metaphor for how he's not really anything without his money. He's just kind of like hiding. And Danny Trejo comes up and shoots him and then walks away. And then that conversation at the end with Danny Trejo and Adam Driver could have some more weight, where Adam Driver's like, man, I missed my chance. I should have killed him. Maybe for all Adam Driver knows, they did take him to the law. And Danny Trejo's just like, yeah,
yep,
you did miss your chance.
Sure did.
You aren't going to see him again for sure.
Yeah. Well, and like you're saying, Christian, like his choice of forgiveness is more important than the actual fate of Ian McShane.
Because it's not even about Ian McShane. It's about this whole thing that he's been going on.
Exactly. So it ties it together thematically better.
Which would be fitting with his character, right? Because at the beginning of the movie, he was the one who was living in his own little fantasy of like being a good Christian husband and dad and servant. So really the whole movie is taking place from his perspective of like, I've had my redemption. I don't care what happens to him. Like before I change my mind and I've undone everything,
Yep.
Okay.
That's good.
I like that. So I think, we have an opening act and an ending act. I do want to flesh out at least a little bit in the middle. Like, so Gideon, right? And I think what Danny Trejo's character, what should his name be?
He should go by just his last name, Like, nobody knows his first name. He just goes by his last name. So it's like,
Gutierrez.
Hey Gutierrez, or we can make him, have a white last name if we want to.
Gooch.
It could, yeah. It could
in
be.
my
It
head,
could
like
be.
we could do like for the middle act, we could do the the first Captain America movie thing where like the main character joins like a fun, lovable, but like fun, lovable, like group of mercenaries or I guess whatever, or Capitol Marshals, whatever Danny Trejo is, and so like their whole thing is trying to get back to this guy, and it could be like kind of the thing where like each side of the conflict kind of gets their licks. Like they win a battle here, you lose a battle there. It's kind of a standstill. Maybe, have a couple good emotional conversations in there about that, give a little more backstory, stuff like that. I guess. What do y'all think?
So do you see it as kind of like it's the middle act of Django Unchained, where they're not really, because like Django Unchained, they don't really actually resolve the plot till like the last 5 minutes. Like most of the movie doesn't even take place near the villain or whatever. Like they don't introduce him till the end.
It's just the journey, basically.
It's just the journey.
Yeah.
And then kind of also like The Mandalorian, the first season of it, where a lot of it is just side quests. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Not side
I
quests.
see this as like a 2.5 hour long movie. I don't know about you. I see it as a pretty long film.
Not side quests, but just like battles and like conversations and more just fleshing out like who this enemy's, who's this enemy really, and like how dangerous he is, and we have a chance to attack here, but maybe it doesn't go well, or with this plot, there's not really like a MacGuffin to add where it's like if we get the key to Old Sal's thing.
I think it just needs to be them trying to get to Ian McShane, but he catches wind that they're coming after him, so he sends his men. So they're kind of like trying to avoid the henchmen while getting to Ian McShane. And so like that could be where you have some shootouts too, to add some action in the middle.
And again, I think that
exactly.
This is me. Instead of having like a law enforcement agency, since we're going to say this is kind of like a rough and rugged frontier, I do think that the other homesteads that are on the plains, since they're also under the threat of getting bought out by the oil company, I think that Danny Trejo and Adam Driver like recruit, like they befriend them, and like maybe there's like a little settlement, like maybe back in the 1840s some guy found gold out here, and so there's like this little tiny pop-up kind of town, like not anything special, and so maybe like Adam Driver was so content, like Gideon didn't ever plan to really like leave the homestead. Like he didn't really care much for anything outside of his world, like outside of his family and his crops and all of that. And so now he has to kind of go through this part of like, oh, well, other people are suffering too. So even in that way, I'm not like Job. Like other people have lost family members, other people have lost their homes or whatever. And so as the movie goes on, he has to kind of, again, humble himself, like maybe kind of come down off of his high horse and say like, to be a good Christian, it's not about having this picturesque life. It also may not be about having this like complete martyrdom complex. Like maybe it's somewhere in the middle, and he has to kind of learn to operate within that. And as the film goes on, and they do have these gunfights where they lose, he starts to question his morals and his motives. But then whenever they start winning, he's like, okay, yeah, I'm back on the path to righteousness and redemption and all of that. So he kind of has to like find that middle ground where you can actually be kind of freed from your own hubris or your own pride or whatever that looks like there too.
Oh, I like that, where it's like kind of the self-determinist, like twisted thing where it's like, yeah, if I'm losing, then, or like you said there, like if we're winning battles, then like, yeah, it's all good. Like in my head spiritually, then if I'm losing, then it's like, oh goodness, why am I doing this? And
yeah, because
I like that a little bit. Yeah.
Going back again, we've said, or I guess mostly I've said, but because the finale is him going on his personal redemption arc rather than like, oh, this guy needs to be brought to the law of justice. Like that again shows that he's not a perfect protagonist, that he really does have this complex of like, I am important and I have to go on my journey. And so there's kind of like that dissonance of like, okay, well, yeah, Gideon found peace, but he still has to exist in this larger world around him where things don't always just focus on him. And he's only started to learn that now with this plot line. Like he still has, like his story's not over essentially, even if the movie's over. Like you kind of want to see how he continues to grow into that, or maybe he doesn't. Like maybe he does kind of live in this life of like, oh well, I found redemption, but really he was just kind of like hitting the cusp of it, and he had so much more to learn that he, you know what I mean? Like you want the audience to think about that after the movie's over.
I like that.
I think you want some resolve as a viewer. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to go all the way and show like he has this happily ever after epilogue, but I also think, I mean, I would be unsatisfied if it didn't seem like he really learned a lot. Like I think you need to see kind of an aftermath of like, at least he has some kind of, and that's where like the conversation with Danny Trejo, you guys were saying like at the end after, you know, Danny Trejo's character kills Ian McShane, that they have that conversation or whatever. Even that could just be even through conversation, you kind of get just the knowing that he's grown from the beginning of the movie to now, and it's not just, this wasn't just a revenge movie, and now, well, the mission's over, so what do I do now?
Here's a little small thing. What if, let me see how you think about this. So whenever we think about his family, right? Again, I think that they should get murdered on Christmas to keep it in line with, you know, but what if one of like the little hooks or little riffs is that like his daughter, his like 3-year-old daughter, like sings the words to Silent Night wrong, and he keeps correcting her. But the very end of the movie, to show that Christmas is no longer the most unimportant day of the year, he like starts singing Silent Night to himself, but he starts singing like the words are wrong, and that's whenever the movie ends.
Okay.
Or if you don't do that, like he could just walk, like the end of the movie is him walking back into a church and be like, well, hey, I gotta comb my hair because it is an important day. And then the title card, you know, like something like that. Or you want to have more static resolve.
Well, so I'm trying to, like, what is the, because I feel like we have maybe a little bit of a muddied exposition for what exactly we're trying to show growth wise. So the growth is that he learns to forgive, right?
I think so. I think he learns to forgive because in my head, I see him as a very like all or nothing character. And so he says like, yeah, my family's dead on the most important day of the year. So my knee-jerk reaction is to do the exact opposite of, I thought I was doing everything right, so that means I was doing everything wrong. And so as the movie goes on, he has to learn to get out of his own way and find that middle ground. And so he does learn forgiveness, like true forgiveness is a spiritual trait, his religious belief. And so he was kind of using Christmas as like this catch-all of, does that make sense? He was using it as a Christmas as an excuse. You know, he said Christmas is the most unimportant day of the year. He was using that as like the finale of like, okay, well, I was living this perfect life and that perfect life is gone. So I'm going to pretend like there is no such thing as a perfect life. Like there is no salvation. There's no goodness. There's no Christmas joy. There's nothing like that. And so it's the most unimportant day of the year. He's just like in his mind, like, I don't want to associate anything with this. This is like my past life. I don't want anything with that. And at the end of the movie, whenever he's learned forgiveness, he's learned that, you know, being these things or doing these things isn't what makes his religious belief solid. He kind of comes back around and says like, okay, maybe Christmas isn't the most unimportant day of the year. Like maybe there is something to this. Like maybe there's something to kind of coming back around and believing in this like special time that's only special because we make it special. And that's how you kind of know that he's or disconnected that part of his brain. Like he's no longer in this all or nothing sort of thing. Like he's kind of like humbling himself and saying, okay, if it's something as small as like singing a Christmas song or like going back to church on Christmas, like it's no longer the most unimportant day. Like it may not be the most important, maybe it used to be, but it at least has some like resonance in his heart. Like he's not going to disconnect everything. He's going to kind of have to pick up the pieces and start again.
No, I gotcha. So you want to show something at the end that just shows that Christmas has gone back to kind of what it's gone back to its normal meaning for him a little bit. Show like there's some sense of normalcy of like, Christmas is like the more like what we're familiar with Christmas, of like he's not associating it with the unimportant day of the year. He's associating it with Christmas, like, you know, tradition or whatever, church or something.
I think you could say that. Yeah. Maybe not even, it's not going back to normal, but it's like, this is a new normal of like, I used to have these celebrations with my family and they were all here and we loved each other. And now that that's gone, but that doesn't mean that like I as a person am gone. Like there can be this new normal. And maybe Christmas has a little bit of importance, you know?
So, just so I understand. Okay, so the start of the movie, Christmas means
is important because he's with his family on Christmas.
Okay, yeah.
They're together.
So,
And then they die on Christmas. They get killed on Christmas Day because you could have whatever reason you want to have for that. And so then he's like, well, I lost everything on this day. And this day itself is a reflection of this life I used to live, of having everything and this kind of this joy. So he goes through this part of the movie where he's like, everything that was that, I'm going to be the opposite of that. Like there is no joy. There is no fulfillment, because if I think about that, I'm going to think about my family. I'm going to think about what I lost. I'm going to think about like the faith that I lost too. And then the end of the movie is the return of that, where Christmas itself, maybe he doesn't care about Christmas, but he's like, this is something that was from my old life that maybe I can kind of rekindle a little bit.
So Christmas at the start represents everything that matters the most to him. His
Yes.
faith, his family.
Yes.
And then, so I mean, probably faith, family, and then
Football.
like faith, family, and
Like fortune.
his provision, like how he
Yes.
provides for his family.
Faith, family, fortune.
So yeah, faith, family, fortune, loses everything.
Mhm.
So therefore, Christmas doesn't matter to him, and really, like you're saying, it's not that Christmas doesn't matter to him anymore. It matters deeply, but anytime that
He thinks
it's
of it.
dwelled on, it just brings up everything that he lost, and how because of that loss, that day itself is soured.
Yes.
And
And so
so-
he tells himself that this is not important. I cannot
Yeah,
think
so-
about this.
So he tells himself it's not important to shield himself from pain
Yes.
of what he lost.
Exactly.
Okay. And then at the end, he comes to, what I guess to lack of a better term, he lets himself feel again, essentially.
Yes.
Or would it be like he lets himself, or he comes to deal with the loss that happened on Christmas, and therefore he's not demonizing Christmas anymore. He's dealing with the loss.
Yes.
Right?
And I mean, because I think it goes without saying, like, we joke about this being a Christmas movie. Like, it really is not. Like, he could care less about Christmas itself. Like, he doesn't really care about the holiday, but of what it reminds him of. And you're right.
Yeah.
Like, I think he is so angry, and for so long, like he says, that Christmas isn't important. All that's important is that I killed this man. He took everything from me. And then he realized, like, oh, this is not at all what the life I had or the life that I want is going to be. So at the end of the movie, once he has had that redemption, he's like, okay, well, maybe Christmas can offer something. Like, maybe I don't have a family anymore. Maybe I don't have fortune. Maybe my faith is in shambles, but like the day is still here, and maybe I can explore some new meanings into it. And like, there's some new importance that I generate from it.
Yeah, I think, and like you're saying, because Christmas is just the placeholder for the most unimportant day or what we're using. We in my head, we don't have to tie anything back to Christmas at the end.
We don't really have
But-
to. You're right.
Yeah.
So
And
does it even have to take place on Christmas?
No. I think keep it on Christmas. I think keep
Or
the
Easter
Christmas
or Thanksgiving.
at
Yeah.
Yeah, keep Christmas, and then at the end, when the work's done and Ian McShane's dead and all of that, I don't think there's like, I don't think in my head that we need to go back to like anything Christmas related, whether that be a song or anything. I think like he can just go, roll credits.
Oh, so maybe it is Christmas, but he doesn't have to participate in it because the day is important to him in a different way. Like
I just think,
25th.
like, let's not even like the end of the movie can be, Gideon and Danny Trejo's last conversation at that saloon or on the porch or wherever they're talking.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, boom, end the movie. Like, not worry about, tying the message up with the bow or anything like that. Just,
Yeah, I think I agree with that. You don't need any kind of reference to Christmas at the end or anything to show. There's nothing that really needs to be wrapped up there, I don't think.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? Yeah. because it's not about Christmas. It's about forgiveness. Like it's,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
So I mean,
think we made a movie.
that's the most important day of the year, guys.
Most
That was
unimportant day of the
that was our first shot at what we're doing. And how'd that feel?
I'm kind of sad that this isn't a real movie. I mean, if Netflix, if you're hearing this, we can negotiate some contracts. Maybe you can take the idea. I mean, I'll be honest. I just want to see the movie be made. They don't have to pay me. I would just let them make it.
I can picture the scenes, like the one you talked about, like where the refinery's burning down and like Ian McShane, he almost, he's just laying there. Like I can definitely picture that scene in my head. So
No, I'm like similar to you guys. Like I'm picturing it, and it's like, dang, I didn't expect to get emotionally invested in this plot.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I just
Sarah died.
imagine
No.
a cry, like a crying, what's it called? Adam Driver just like just holding ashes of his old house or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
every day I wake up.
More. More. Man, yeah. So we have Ian McShane, Danny Trejo, Adam Driver. What was the name of his wife?
Emily Kinney.
Emily Kinney.
that's really all we need, I think. Oh, we have Pedro Pascal as the
Is
the nephew, right?
antagonist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So does he die? Do you think that he dies and that can be before Adam Driver goes through, before Gideon is redeemed? Like,
I think he
maybe that's-
sacrifices himself for them at some point.
You think so? As like
Yeah.
out of his guilt? Because I think it would be interesting if like that confrontation happens pretty early in the film. So it's kind of a shock thing of like, you think Pedro Pascal is going to be a headliner, but he really dies as like a means to an end for Adam Driver. Like they confront and Adam Driver really doesn't feel that remorseful about it. And he kills Pedro Pascal. And then later on, movie was the emotional arc. And then he's like, oh, but I didn't really have to kill that guy. I don't know. I think that your idea is probably more cinematic.
So like, I don't know.
I think it really just depends on what, I don't know. I have a tend to not want to lean into tropes, but I think tropes are okay. I mean, that they exist for a reason. I guess my thought was that if I'm watching this character Gideon, and he's obviously flawed as a character, but I want to root for him, I think it would be a test to the audience of like, can you root for a guy who killed Pedro Pascal? Right? Like a guy, Pedro Pascal,
yeah.
who was already kind of guilty about it, but maybe he didn't get a chance to redeem himself because Adam Driver was so focused on this revenge that didn't even get acted on. It's kind of like he fell by the wayside as like an unresolved. Or do you think that
That's good because, like you're saying, we're watching Pedro Pascal's arc, and we're watching Adam Driver's arc, and it's like,
they can
like-
exist separately?
yeah,
arcs.
exactly, right. Like they're parallel arcs, right? And then when I guess this technically isn't parallel anymore, but like when they cross, it's like, oh, we feel bad about Pedro Pascal dying because of
'Cause
where
he
he
was-
was at in his arc,
Mm-hmm.
and Adam Driver don't even care because of where he was at in his arc.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a good point. I think that's good. Where it's like, ooh, like you shouldn't have killed that guy. But
He didn't
like,
know that he was feeling bad about it, right?
yeah, he feels really bad about all that stuff.
And there could even be like a passing line, like maybe Adam Driver shoots him in the gut, and so he's not dying immediately. He just like says this line of like, "Oh, if only you knew that I've already died 100 times over this," or like just something like that, where like it doesn't make sense to Gideon until the end of the movie. He's like, "Oh wait, well, I don't know."
I like what's it called? I like dramatically what that's doing.
Mhm.
And like a bloody handprint that Pedro Pascal leaves on Adam Driver's shirt. Like
Yeah.
just, something like that. I like that
So he has to carry it
thematically.
with him for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any last bits of detail or anything else y'all wanna talk about for most unimportant day? Excuse me.
I don't know.
I feel like that was a good pod. I feel like
I think so too.
that really worked and that was fun and flowed decent.
I'm picturing the like the title of the DVD or the movie poster is just like Adam Driver, like it's like a kind of a far out shot, and you just see him like from the back on his knees, and like there's just like the ashes of his house, like just left. He's just like sitting there, like
Uh-huh. And there's an oil
angsty, and that's
barrel
just
in the background.
yeah, exactly, and that's just the kind of a simplistic cover.
Or Adam Driver in black and white, and the only color is like the oil on his face.
Mm.
Ooh, like a little like Okay.
It's is it blood or is it oil? Like,
Ooh. Okay. I like that.
I'm a fan. Good stuff.
Okay.
we made a movie, guys. We
We
did
made a movie.
Yeah.
I wish that we could make
It's
it
not
for real.
hard.
Yeah.